Okay, we're back. We're live. We're here on a Thursday 4 to 5 block here on Think Tech Talks. And of course, everybody knows. If you don't know, raise your hand. Maybe if you don't know, take a step backward. That this is Hawaii, the state of clean energy. It's really important. And we have today our special guest, Howard Wigg, who is no stranger to Think Tech or to the state of energy. Howard is the energy
Analyst.
Hmm?
Energy analyst.
Energy analyst at DBED, the Department of Business and Economic Development and Tourism. Okay, and my co-host Ray Starling, who is listening to every word that you say, Howard. Okay, and I just want to say that we're going to talk tonight about the big news in lighting, in public and transportation spaces. We had a discussion, last week about lighting with Stan Wawlczyk.
Wawlczyk, yep.
And Howard, and I think we have to expand that because lighting is efficiency. Ray will tell us, and or can be efficient anyway, and because we need help in our public spaces and on our transportation spaces, which are also public spaces. So the point of it is that Hawaii, the state of clean energy, which is essentially produced by the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum every Wednesday, follows what's going on in clean energy. And we are rooting for clean energy, and we want to know what's happening and what's not happening. And one thing that is happening is next Tuesday, the 22nd. Am I right about this?
Mm-hmm.
There's Energy Day, Hawaii Clean Energy Day at Laniakea, which is the YWCA on Richard Street, downtown here, across the bandstand in the park near Iolani Palace. And we're going to celebrate all day about clean energy. This is the 6th time, right, that the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum has actually presented this program. And we are totally chock-a-block. You're going to be there, Howard?
Yes.
Okay. And Ray's going to participate for sure.
I will be
speaker,
there.
But,
I will be there.
Okay. All right. And what about you, Lisa? Are you going to be there?
Of course.
Okay. That's Lisa Harmon. She's here as part of our Negawatt moment with Rob DeVeriterra. And there he is. He's waved. I have proof. I have witnesses that he waved. And she's here. So she has a message, and the message sounds in efficiency, and it's something you have to listen to because efficiency is the only way to save on fossil fuel and to not use fossil fuel at zero cost.
That's right. That's right. The cheapest kilowatt you'll ever have is your efficiency.
Is that microphone on? Because if it is, you'll feel so much better.
Yes.
Okay, good.
It's on. Well, I'm here today, Howard, to talk about the new Clean Energy Ally program that Hawaii Energy is launching. And the Clean Energy Ally program, it's a network of our contractors, architects, engineers, equipment vendors, distributors, manufacturers, and retailers, all of those people who provide energy efficient products and services to the electric ratepayers. And we're very thankful for all the projects that the trade allies bring us every year. It's a large benefit to their customers, of course, for the incentive funding. And so we're starting a program for them to help them be up to the minute on all our program changes and updates. We're going to have an online vendor directory so they can list their business for customers looking for partners in their energy efficiency projects.
That's it?
That's it.
This reminds me of Forest City. You guys worked with them a few years ago.
Oh, sure.
They built the marine housing at Kaneohe. And those houses are loaded with energy efficiency devices. I mean, they were totally committed to it. And the point about it is that they prided themselves in their knowledge of how you build a house with energy efficient devices, how you find vendors who knew about how to install those devices. I mean, not only devices, but building materials, everything. And then how you train those people, those construction guys who were working on the project to do a great job and to take that knowledge to other non-federal projects all around the state and raise their level of acumen on exactly how you build an efficient project. So, I mean, to me, it's all about vendors and getting them together and getting them all on the same page. And it sounds like, this program you're talking about will generate that kind of increase in the knowledge level.
Yes, yes. There'll be experts in our program. We'll offer them support, training support, educational support, and online resources for them as well. So we want to support them in their efforts to provide efficiency projects to the customers.
Never stop, Lisa.
Never stop.
Well,
we keep trying.
Lisa actually is in a new position now. We created a new position just to do this. It's a trade ally specialist position, and we recognize that there's so much going on. It's hard to keep up with what the latest thing is, and we have Lisa now, who is going to be managing our trade allies and making sure that they get the kind of treatment that they need in order for them to be out there selling efficiency. Because basically, we can't do it by ourselves. We need the trade allies. They're the ones who actually implement.
They're on the front line. They make those close decisions that, that result in having an efficient house or not. And if you say nothing to them and you don't ask for it, you won't get it. So if you it's the same thing would happen at the Marines, as there was all this, training and teaching and constant reminders about how you do it right so everything works best. So congratulations
That's right.
on
Thank
your new
you.
job and promotion, Lisa.
Thank you.
When's the
Looking
party?
Tomorrow.
Oh. Will Rob DeVerturta be there?
Of course, Rob's our fabulous PR person. He's
So-
in charge
sorry,
of
we're
our-
going to have a party on Friday. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Thank you, Lisa. You have more?
I was just going to let you know that the program is launching on August 1st. At that point, there will be a site on our webpage for them, a page on our website for the allies to go to fill out an online application to become registered, to be embraced into the program.
Great.
hawaiienergy.com. Lots of other good information and tips there as well.
Okay, well, keep coming back. I'd like to hear more about how this works out. Yeah.
Yeah, be happy to do that. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Lisa. Wow, Ray, you have a fabulous staff. What can I tell you?
I know.
People, energy efficiency is turning out to be one of the most important parts of the initiative. And I think that people didn't understand that at first, but they're coming around. It's also because some of the other elements of energy efficiency are not coming around.
Well, we want to make it easier for all of the other elements to come around, so we get the efficiency done first and then fill in the gaps where we need power with renewable resources.
Yeah. You're definitely in the forefront of what's going on here in clean energy in Hawaii. Okay, Howard, now all the lights are pointing on you, and I mean that.
Okay.
Okay, so our discussion today, which is a follow-up from Stan Wallercheck from last week, is the news in lighting public and transportation spaces. And I think it's important that we discuss this because there are a lot of them, and a lot of them are old, and a lot of them are not efficient. And if you right now snapped your fingers and put efficient lighting on all the highways, on all the public spaces, they'd be better lit, for one thing, which I think is important in terms of planning and architectural, view of it, and a lifestyle, quality of life view of it, but also from the point of energy efficiency. So, query, what is the big news? What's out there that we should be looking at, to remake, to redesign, repopulate our public spaces, our highway spaces with better technology going forward?
Okay, excellent question. Couldn't have thought of a better one myself. There, you mentioned streetlights. On Oahu, the streetlights are divided between city and state. The state has the major highways, the city has all the byways, and the city has 51,700 streetlights out there. That's a lot. The good news is that they are going to convert to LED streetlights. And many, many cities across the nation have already done so, the biggest being Los Angeles. And are you sitting down? Yes.
Yeah, I am sitting down.
Los Angeles
Some
converted.
people think I'm standing up, but I'm sitting down.
Yes, because of the height.
Never
there, in
mind.
fact, yeah. Los Angeles converted 140,000 100,000 streetlights to LEDs
Wow.
with enormous savings. And just by the by, a little benefit to that. They started with the high crime areas of Los Angeles, and the police loved it because what's called the color rendition, getting down under the ground, that means when you have good color rendition, which you do under LEDs, red looks red, green looks green, blue looks blue, gray looks gray, and they're much better able to identify perpetuators of crime under those circumstances. They have helicopters in these areas, and they can see a suspect running around the neighborhood trying to duck here and there, and they can see much better where he is. Hence, the crime rate in these areas has gone down.
Wow.
Direct side benefit of conversion to LEDs.
I offer a thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
In the last hour, we were talking with Scott Wilson, an architect.
Mm-hmm.
He's the chair of the Urban Design Committee and very concerned about Kaka'ako. In fact, all the architects are concerned
Yes,
about Kaka'ako.
yes.
And so we were talking about, ideal places in the world to model ourselves after. And I pointed out to him that not far from the Duomo in Florence is a beautiful park. And it's maybe 2 or 3 short blocks down an alleyway. And you get to the park, and it's bigger than Mother Waldron Park by far. All lovely green grass, crew cut, beautiful. Like, we couldn't have that here. There's no way we could achieve that in these islands. But ideally, it is possible. And in the park, there's low concrete benches that are very comfortable and easy to sit on for adults and children. Right? And although I suppose you could sleep on that, but nobody's worried about that. They have their ways of avoiding people sleeping on these benches. One way is that the park is in use 24 hours a day. People love this park so much, you can see them out there 24 hours a day for respite, for recharging their batteries somehow. And there are shops with food around the park, in these wonderful old beige buildings, those old Italian buildings. And there's a church or two, because, in Italy you need a church or two. It wouldn't be right if you didn't have a church or two. Anyway, this park is fabulous. But one thing I didn't mention to Scott, which I would mention here, is the park is very well lit.
Mm-hmm.
And for one thing, that means that, funny business is hard to conduct in a well-lit park, in any well-lit space. And secondly is the perception of it, is you feel better, you feel safer in a well-lit place. I was driving, thinking of this very issue. I was driving past Kawananokoa School, which is at the foot of the Poly there, near Nu'uanu Avenue. In fact, it's on Nu'uanu Avenue. And it's got a big front lawn with no fence, an old rock wall, probably a historic rock wall,
Yep.
and a fairly large lawn. There isn't a single light in the place. It's totally dark. And I said, this is a magnet for bad acts. This has got to be a dangerous place, because as you are encouraged by light in the evening time in a place like that, other people are encouraged by darkness. And those are the people you don't want to meet in this park. So this park would come alive, In Chinatown, right near a little village, block away, there's a basketball court, very well lit. And as a result, it doesn't have, dark fringes and danger written all over it. Its message is, I'm open for business. Come play basketball. And so it makes a big difference. We were talking with Stan Wallachek last week. It makes a big difference about what your mental impression is, what your state of mind is when you're there under the lights or not. And so, I just want to throw that in on you, Howard.
Sure.
To say that if you have something that's well lit, it improves everything for a mile around. And we haven't focused on that here. We need to focus on that. I think people elsewhere are focusing on it. We need to do that,
Yeah.
especially with LEDs.
And let me just add to that, LEDs can be switched on and off an infinite number of times. They're rugged as heck, unlike other lighting sources. And the technology for motion sensors and heat sensors has gone way, way up. The cost has gone down. In areas like this, they can be activated by motion, so that when there's people there, they're on. Then they have, say, a 30-minute delay, nobody there, they're dark. A bad guy wants to come in, boom, 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 woo, everything's lit up. And a passing police car says, what's going on here at 2 in the morning?
So you're saving energy too.
Yeah, you're saving energy, and it's activated when it should be activated, dark when it should be dark, and it lights up when maybe nobody's supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So there's an added energy efficiency.
Actually, it
to such
occurs to me
spaces.
that we are not well lit in this city.
No,
maybe the neighbor islands too, we are not well lit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places that need greater lighting. I mean, for example, I live near the Poly Highway, and the Poly Highway has these pedestrian crosswalks, and there are death traps. And you know, people try to cross and they get killed on a regular basis. And you know, the neighborhood boards, which I was sitting on at the time, get all excited about this, but it's so obvious what the problem is.
Yeah.
They're not lit. You can't see. Even if you really want to see, you can't see.
I agree. I've had several occasions where I've actually seen a person really late. I was able to stop, but the person, you know, sometimes thinks that the traffic's going to stop for them. And I, you know, just recently I didn't see the person at all until they were in the crosswalk, and luckily I was paying attention and not going fast, so I was able to stop.
And to go to Howard's point,
Yes.
you don't even have to have those LEDs on all the time.
That's
If a
true.
person, you know, enters the crosswalk, the sensor catches him or her, presto, the light comes on. Now everybody in half a mile can see that there's somebody crossing the crosswalk.
Well, that raised some issues, and it takes a little getting used to, from what I understand. There were some stories from the mainland where guards who were supposed to be guarding large parking areas and so forth, they put in the LED lights that shut off. The guards were all up in arms because they couldn't see anymore, right? And until they realized that they didn't need to see when there's nobody there, but as soon as somebody was there, the lights came on, and they said, oh, we need to be paying attention, right?
And back to your crosswalk example, another thing you can do with LEDs is, number one, have the motion sensors there, where somebody appears in the field, boom, the LEDs illuminating that crosswalk come right on. Plus, there is more. You can have LEDs embedded into the crosswalk itself. When somebody is crossing, those little lights in the street, which are hugely, hugely rugged, so they can be run over by trucks and everything, they come on. Now we're talking real safety here. And they can even be blinking, they can be any color you want.
Ooh,
Yeah.
right. Really make an impression on everyone around.
Yeah, and from an energy efficiency standpoint, they're only on when somebody is crossing.
Okay, what else? I mean, we have lots of highways that have no lights. I mean, major H3 has stretches where there are no lights. Would lights help? Would
Nope.
LEDs help? I mean, what's the policy on that?
With H3 in particular, you have zero pedestrian. It's strictly a highway. What you need in highways like that are very, very good striping, side striping and lane striping.
Maybe lights even.
Nope. You're talking to the energy efficiency guy.
Okay, sorry.
You
Sorry,
don't
I would
need
never
lights.
question you, Howard.
Yep. When you have very good striping on the edge, this is the edge of the highway, and this is, you can have reflective material in the paint that you put on. You have no hesitation about knowing where the edge of the highway is, and then this is lane 1, this is lane 2, this is lane 3, all well illuminated by the headlights. It's very, very, very safe. Europe usually does this.
Let me.
And there's no pedestrians out there. This is H3, for goodness sakes.
So you're saying, I think I'm getting this now. You're saying on any highway, where there are no pedestrians, talking a freeway of any kind, or one of those cross the mountains kind of roads, You don't need lights.
You don't need lights
Just use
except
reflective
when
tape. Yeah.
except when you're going to have an interface, say, with other cars, as in intersections, then the intersections are lit up. And that, too, can be by sensors. Sensors are really, really sensitive these days.
Well, you know, actually, this goes to the whole question of traffic sensors, but that's probably maybe is that another
Yeah,
show? Or do you want to
that's
talk about
another show. I
Okay.
could talk about that all day long
Okay,
and twice
all right.
on
Well,
Sunday.
We'll have to reserve time for another
Mhm.
show on the subject. Okay,
But
so
if you obviously like light, I'm going to give you some light delivered by the city and county of Honolulu. They have 51,700 lights in the residential areas out there. Within a year or so, they will all be LEDs.
here,
Here.
where is the work proceeding right now as we
There's
speak?
only pilot projects right now. There's a pilot project in Manoa, which is my neighborhood. I think another one in Waimanalo, another one in Kalihi, and another one somewhere else. The city has decided that they like it. And dozens and dozens of mainland cities have converted to LEDs already, and the response has been universally positive. The energy savings is about 50%. You go from a 100-watt street light to a 50-watt street light, you get better light down in the pedestrian and car area. Why is that? You are, lo and behold, directing the light down where it's needed. What a concept. With our current lights, high pressure sodium, a lot of the light goes horizontal and even a little light goes up. That's utterly, totally wasted.
Until the bulb burns out, then you have no light at all.
And then you have no light at
But
all.
with
and
LEDs, it doesn't burn out so quick.
the current lights last about 4 years. The LEDs will last at least 10 years. And that has enormous implications for maintenance by the city. When Mayor Harris installed LED traffic lights, traffic signal lights, many, many years ago, he was able to free up 2 crews who used to do nothing but go from traffic light to traffic light to traffic light to traffic light and change out those old lights which were incandescent. Now you just leave them alone. They're going to be not forever, but they're going to be there for years and years and years. These electrical guys can go do something else now.
After the
Plus
break,
the-
I'm going to tell you a short story about what I saw in Canada, because you know it's a different country.
Yeah.
How come we are not advised of this earlier? It's a different country, and in Canada they have lighting devices that I want to tell you about. That's Howard Wig and Ray Starling, my co-host, and here we are on Think Tech Hawaii, Hawaii, the state of clean energy, and the big news in lighting public and transportation spaces. Exciting topic. The way Howard describes it is something we should have talked about a long time ago.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back after this break.
I'm Hong Jiang, host for Asia in Review on Tuesdays.
And I'm David Day, host for Asian Review on Thursdays. Both of us broadcast our respective shows at 4 p.m.
And my topics tend to deal with questions related to environment, culture, history, and sometimes human rights.
And my shows tend to be on international business, foreign policy, geopolitics, and national security. And you can watch our shows live on the ThinkTech website at thinktechhawaii.com.
And you can also watch us on YouTube or Olalo.
So come join us on Thursdays at 4 p.m. I'm David Day.
And on Tuesdays at 4 p.m., I'm Hong Jiang.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Okay, we're back. We're live. We're here on Think Tech Talks on a given Wednesday, talking, of course, about Hawaii, the state of clean energy. The big news in lighting, public, and transportation spaces with Howard Wig of DBED and my co-host Ray Starling. During the break, we had an idea pop up from Ray. Ray, what was that?
Well, I wanted to ask Howard if he could explain a little bit to our audience about the coloration with the lighting, what that means, how it will affect the where you place these lights, and generally just talk about the changes that we might see when these new lights come in.
One of my favorite topics.
I know.
CRI, Color
am familiar
Rendition
with this, yeah.
Index. If you look, every set of eyeballs is different from species to species. If you were to put in horse's eyes, you wouldn't believe what you were seeing. Our human eyes have, in terms of visual acuity, what we see, they go from ultraviolet on the left, this is a big chart, all the way over to deep red on the right, and it peaks, it's a bell-shaped curve, and it peaks right at green. Now and if you emulate that curve in your artificial lighting, which sunlight does a beautiful job of, because hominids have been around for 4.2 million years, and we've adapted to sunlight somehow over that period. If you can emulate with your electrical light that bell-shaped curve, you have perfect visual acuity. No light has been able to do that perfectly, but we do rate these things on a scale of 1 to 100. And if you know what low pressure sodium is, those intense yellow lights, they have a CRI, color rendition index, of about 20. The high pressure sodium lights that we have all over the place right now have a color rendition of 40. Meaning when you go out to your parking lot and you have a light green car and next to it is a gray car, you're going to have a lot of trouble distinguishing between what your car is and what your neighbor's car is, because the color rendition index is so poor. Put your hand or look at your companion's face under strictly high pressure sodium lighting, and you're not going to believe what you see. It looks all gray, all washed out, or splotchy red. That's poor color rendition index. LEDs can render excellent color rendition index. They can kind of emulate that bell-shaped curve that I described.
Just the way they do here in our studio.
Yes, yes. I mean, look at how beautiful we look. And there are many implications for that. Number one, you can have less lumens, less light intensity down on the ground and have better vision, meaning you can decrease your wattage and have better vision. The police love good color rendition index because they can tell exactly what color a car is, exactly the color of a suspect's face, clothing, so forth, so forth. So that is one implication there. And another for LEDs is that they're twice as efficient. They deliver twice as many miles per gallon as do the high pressure sodium lamps. And you can reduce your wattage by 50%, get better lighting down on the ground. Plus, there's even more.
There's more.
Let me tell you what I'm going to do.
With LEDs, you can aim your light distribution any way you want. With the high pressure sodium, the light just goes splashing all over the place, horizontally into bedroom windows, up into the skies, and I'll talk about dark skies in astronomy in a minute. It goes everywhere where it's not needed. With LEDs, you can beam the light down right where it's needed, and you can make patterns of your light, including elliptical patterns. What you're trying to do...
How about a Batman symbol in the sky?
You think you're joking, you're not.
Okay.
We can make a Batman. Look at what the Honolulu Symphony and Opera does in front of the opera hall now.
Sure. The LEDs?
Those are LEDs,
Okay.
shaped LEDs, doing anything they want. So with street lighting, you can emulate the shape of the street. What a concept. You can have big elliptical patterns such that the light is not splashed just under the street light itself, but uniformly distributed all the way from over
It's a
here
lot
to all the
easier
way
to
from
see
over
the
there.
street that way.
Yeah. And then the next street light has a similar pattern so that where the two cross, you have almost as much intensity as you do right under the lamp. That's called uniformity.
Well, it
The human
strikes
eye
me-
loves uniformity, whereas with the high pressure sodium, you've got a big puddle of light under, dark, a big puddle of light under.
Is it that you don't need as many light poles, lights, if you have LEDs instead of sodium?
You could do that for new applications. Trouble with that, with existing poles, is that it costs a heck of a lot to dig up an old pole and put in a new one.
Yes, it
So
might.
you want to, whereas when you convert, all you need to do is take what's called the head of the light out, which is only about 2 or 3 feet long and 8 inches wide. Take that out, snap in the new pole.
But in a
the
new
head.
installation,
In new installations, you can
you
have,
have fewer lights.
Yeah, because you can form this elliptical pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Howard, what is the payback? I mean, it costs something to go change these lights out, but they save 50%, and you have less maintenance and so forth. What you have an idea?
I did a really, really rough estimate with the city conversion, 51,700 lights. If the per fixture cost is $400, and that's an old figure, I suspect it's come way down. To convert all of these lights is around $20 million. The yearly savings is $2.8 million a year, approximate payback time 7.36 years, but that's an old figure, that $400 per fixture. I suspect, I should have done some research, that it's maybe down around $300 a fixture now, because LEDs are becoming so common, the mass production is driving the per unit cost down. So if it's, say, 300, then your payback time would be under 5 years.
Oh.
And
major.
again, you get better light down on the street, safer light, and the maintenance just goes out of the window. You just don't need to maintain these things for another 10 years.
So you mentioned that there was some pilot installations, but no large scale installation.
No
happening
large
just
scale.
yet.
In Manoa, where I live, it's just one block of 2 side streets.
Yeah. So why pilots? I mean, don't we know this? What you've been talking about, don't we know this as a matter of
We know this.
absolute knowledge?
You'd have to consult with the city street lighting people on that.
You know,
It's their decision, not mine.
if we were Aku Head Papuli, we would pick up the phone and call them now and ask them that question. But we're not going to do that. We're going to move on.
We're not going to do that, yeah.
So, that being the case, it seems like to me there's really only one policy choice here, and that is to do it. The problem is that if you want to spend, $20 million?
And this is real. This is not official
Whatever
figures.
it
This
is.
is my back of the envelope.
If you want to
figure.
pay, spend 10, 20, whatever it is.
Oh, you don't have to spend it, but we'll get back to that in a minute.
Okay, you can fold that into your answer.
Yeah.
It requires the money. And everybody in government is always antsy about spending the money. So how do we fund on this kind of thing? Because it's an upfront cost. Isn't it?
Brilliant question. Couldn't have thought a better one myself. Enter the wonderful world of performance contracting. That is where you enter into a contract with a private entity who looks at the numbers that I've been slinging around and says, by George, if we pick up all the upfront costs, the engineering, the design, the purchase of the materials, even the installation, it will cost X. And the savings, this is a beautiful thing about lighting, the savings will be Y, and you know what those savings are. Therefore, if we front the city all of this money and then charge them less than they would be paying otherwise, so that they have a small positive cash flow from month 1 after expending $0, we will get paid back in, say, 7 years. Then we own the system during this time, and we're leasing these fixtures to the city. When they have paid us back, of course, there's a finance and labor expense attached to this. When they paid us back, we sell them the whole system for $1, and they're scot-free, saving all the money. That's called performance contracting. It's become more and more
Is it
ubiquitous
happening
now.
in Hawaii now on anything?
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of the retrofits that we've done in the state buildings have been via performance contracting.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think it's brilliant and appropriate, and it saves government. It's a financing deal, so the government doesn't have to spend the money right now, and so you don't have that kind of budgetary pressure and political pressure and so forth.
Another advantage is that the private contractor is beholden to these numbers. He's projecting these numbers. If he doesn't meet them, he eats the cost. So he's going to be gosh darn sure that he achieves those savings that he's projecting.
And you can, therefore, it's a trust thing. You can trust him more because he's putting his money where his mouth is.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it sounds terrific. Well, I'd like to move on to another possibility that all of this kind of suggests, and that is the integration of solar and public lighting. I'm not talking about top of your roof. I'm not even talking about government buildings. I'm talking about street lights.
Would you believe our rapid transit system? I was just in contact with a vendor who specializes in solar-powered streetlights. You have your street light, you have your PV panel up above there. In the day, it stores the power in a battery. At night, the light flicks on. She specializes in this, and she said, guess what? I just got a contract with
Here or now?
here, for our coming rail system. And
For
I
the
don't know
whole
if
rail
it's
system?
I don't know if it's a big contract, a small contract, but this is what they're looking at.
You heard it here on Think Tech. It's a scoop. We're not sure when it's a scoop, but
Yeah,
at some
it's-
point along the way, it's going to be a scoop.
And there's a lot of different applications for solar-powered streetlights. Couple A, it's either Couple A Middle or Couple A High School out there is lighting their parking areas and I think their security areas with solar-powered streetlights.
Okay,
It's just a natural, and battery technology has improved such that it can be just a small battery. It doesn't have to be a big clunky car battery type thing.
then you got to add one more level of technology to all this. And you talk about the park at Kawananakoa and with the security guards in an industrial setting.
Yeah.
You have to have these things talk to each other. They could talk to each other by wireless. And in fact, Hawaii has a company, that has developed on a national scale mesh technology for wireless, where you have a whole blanket full of these nodes, and the nodes all talk to each other, and that could be done. So you could have 20, 30, 50 of them across a fairly large area, and if somebody appeared in the wrong place, boom, they all go on.
Yep.
And these are not even wired together. They are not using any electrical source at all.
Yeah.
I saw units like this in my trip to Canada recently. And just as you described them, there are three elements in each one. There's the solar panels, which are quite small actually, and then the batteries, which are about the size of the solar panels, and then there's a light, and it's set up to work on a daily basis. So every day the sun shines all day, and it's feeding the battery, and every night the light has enough. It's enough juice in the battery to keep it lit for most of the night. This is wonderful, and it's all self-contained, and I don't think they're that expensive. And if you put that, I guess it's too much trouble to put something like that on a string of lights on a highway that's already wired. And it's just like a step back, not backward, but a step that you're not using the resource that's already there. But if it was a new stretch of highway or a new road or Kaka'ako, for example, or a new park, there should be many new parks, then this could light it relatively cheaply because labor, digging ditches, laying cable, all that is very expensive. So if you just plant them in the ground and they work all by themselves and they network with the others by wireless, by their own wireless system, you could achieve a lot for a relatively small expenditure.
This is exactly why solar-powered streetlights are coming in, is because it costs an arm and a leg to trench those pukas to feed the lines in there. A lot of upfront cost, and instead of doing that, why not put the upfront cost of the PV panels? Yeah. And incidentally, the batteries are so good that they can last for 2, even 3 days, because you ask yourself, say in Canada, what happens if you have a totally overcast day and you have almost zero solar insolation on that thing? Well, the answer is the battery can go for the second day.
How are we going to do that? Ray, you must have an answer. I mean, this technology it's all over the place.
Well, and it's constantly changing. But
Getting better.
It's getting better, and it's getting more and more efficient. And I was saying just yesterday that our team at Hawaii Energy is actually trying to work themselves out of a job. One day, there won't be a need for somebody to be really pushing energy efficiency and conservation, and it will be something that's so inbred in the culture and the technology continues to get better. Now, I heard just the other day they're coming out with an LED light that's about 50% more efficient than the current LED lights. Now they're going to get it down to where they're slicing really small slices, but it's half of what you're paying. And when you're putting lights in a whole city, it might even make sense to change them out to the newer model before the old model gives up the ghost, so to speak. So it's a continuing process, and that's why those of us who are in this business are really excited about working in it.
That's the old story. It's like buying a computer. Do I buy the one that's there right now, or do I wait 6 months for better technology? And when do I get on the train?
Yeah. Well, you need to start. Today's a good day. Start.
There you go. You heard it here. By the way, Ray, if you ever work yourself out of a job, there's always room for you at this table.
I understand. Thank you.
Now, just to back that up, I got a monthly newsletter from one of the leading lighting distributors in Hawaii. This is basically high-end. I was looking through every one of the products. Every one of them, including outdoor lighting, is now LEDs. No fluorescent, no high-pressure sodium, certainly no incandescent. Every one of them, and this is for strip lighting to replace the fluorescents, for task lighting, for screw-in-the-bulb type lighting, street lighting. Here's small LED floodlights for very narrow little applications. Everything. It's all LEDs.
It raises the question of maintenance, I mean, if you have the what did you call it, the high-pressure bulbs, and one goes down, say, in 4 years, somebody has to get on a long ladder and get up there. It takes them a while to change that bulb.
And most of us have gotten stuck on the H1 in the last few months.
Yeah.
And you ask yourself, you really, really are inconvenienced narrowing down to one lane. And you ask yourself, what if they have to change one of these lights? Answer, they have to get a big truck with a cherry picker. They have to cone off everything to be safe. They have to
Hire a
cone
couple
off 2
of
lanes.
off-duty police officers.
Yep. It's
How much does
that
really
cost?
expensive. It's disruptive. You get your LEDs in there, you're home free for 10 years.
Yeah, so it's more, the savings is way more than you calculate. You didn't factor that in.
Well, it's even more. You got to think somebody has to, price these things, go out and bid, stock them, and make sure that they're there when they're needed. It's a huge process.
It's a whole enterprise.
So anytime
Lots
you
of
can
labor involved.
just make the life longer,
Yeah.
nothing else, just the life longer, saves a lot of money. But we're going to save money on the efficiency of the light bulbs as well.
I've read several studies where the conclusion is that the maintenance savings is greater even than the energy savings.
That's not surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I keep coming back, at least in my mind, to the question of how do we achieve this? It's something you play with every day, Ray. We can be more efficient, and in being more efficient, we can save an enormous amount of money and risk from volatile prices and fossil fuel. But how do you get off the dime? How do you raise the money and have the political will? How do you get out there and do it? It's sort of like, I hate to make this parallel, it's sort of like fixing the potholes. It ain't easy, and it requires a lot of political will, a lot of labor, a lot of buy-in, and a lot of aggravation to do it.
Right.
And frankly, for me, and I know you will disagree, Howard, I don't see this happening anytime soon. Sorry.
I'll disagree. For one thing, Ray
The glass is half empty, half full, what?
half full, because Lisa just talked about the Trade Ally program. This means, as if they weren't doing it already, that the vendors of energy efficiency equipment out there, they're going to be knocking on doors and saying, buy my price, buy my product. Yes, I know it's a bit more expensive, but enter Hawaii Energy.
There's a rebate.
Yeah, there's a rebate.
There's
yeah.
an incentive.
Yeah.
Not
That
just
that will always help, you know.
It does help.
Yeah.
And that's the whole idea behind the program, actually.
Well, could you get involved in this?
We are involved. I mean,
In those streetlights right
we
now,
are-
in this
we-
big program
we
he's
will be
talking about?
incentivizing every street light that goes up, yes.
And incidentally, if you drive on, I think, H1, I think by the airport, you're going to see some LED pilot projects out there. So the state is moving forward also.
Okay.
Yeah.
What have we missed here?
This,
We want to
You were gonna
save money. We want to have better lighting in all public places, including public places that are not well lit now. This is, I mean, that's the expectation, or at least that's our expectation.
Well,
what else do we need to do?
well,
to
one
get there?
thing, well, we haven't talked about the private sector, which is out in public spaces also. I know
Yes.
of at least 2, if not 3, car lots that are converting to LEDs. And I said, don't just save your 50% with your conversion, because LEDs are so versatile. You can reduce to 50% lighting if you want after midnight, or 30% lighting, whatever you want, or you can turn them all off and have them on motion sensors. If somebody enters that space at 2 in the morning, boom, the lights come on, and the passing officer of the law says, that light's not supposed to be on, let me check this out here. And they're already doing it, the car lots are already doing it. And if you read about new buildings coming up, you're just going to see LEDs, 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 LEDs. The parking lots are not sexy, but there's massive conversion to LEDs in parking lots. You can spread the illumination as far as you want, so there's no dark corners. Ladies do not like dark corners in parking lots. And existing lighting, you have them, LEDs, you spread them out, you have your good color rendition, so you can see exactly what's going on.
So who's handling this? It sounds like we have the right people in the house. I mean, Ray is incentivizing with, a variety of incentives, I guess. And you, Howard, DBED, is DBED actively making this happen? I mean, how do you
we
do
push,
that?
I'm the energy codes guy, and we keep ratcheting down the allowed amount of lighting for X application, the amount of wattage for X application, and that forces the designer into more and more efficient sources, and we factor in controls. If you have it such that this light turns off automatically after 20 minutes, you get more credits towards your code compliance. So we're pushing from that standpoint.
That's a subject for another show, actually, the codes and standards, because that's a big thing that we still
You
need.
try to get
we
them
need to
updated, don't you?
We do, and Howard, he's so humble. He doesn't really wear this badge, but he is the codes and standards guy in the state, and he has his hands full because he doesn't control the implementation of the codes and standards. That's this county job. So Howard's got to figure out how to get the codes where they need to be, and the codes that we have adopted historically have not been for traditional island type places. And so they're not quite right for our tropical climate. Howard here has actually been writing tropical provisions for these codes, I understand.
And it's at a national level now.
Oh, yeah.
There's a whole new climate zone called the tropical climate zone.
But you were the first, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
got it going. And so we're really lucky to have Howard, and we just need to get the counties on board and get them doing the latest and the greatest.
That's great, Howard.
Codes and standards.
Codes and
You're going to
standards.
hear a lot more about that.
Yeah, well, and we should. This is one of those energy efficiency things that, has huge effect for relatively little money and effort, and we have to keep pushing on it. That's the thing. Have to do show after show, and keep on talking about lighting. So, Ray, we're about wound up here. You want to give a summary of this and give your impressions, and don't hold back. You may not agree with everything that Howard said, but you can tell us.
Oh, I do. Howard, I think he's been in this business a lot longer than there's been a business actually. He was preaching this gospel a long time ago, and nobody wanted to listen. And they're finally beginning to listen, and we're lucky we've got Howard, and we appreciate the extra effort that he goes to. He could probably retire and go fishing now if he wanted to, but I think he's having too much fun. He's finally seeing the product of his efforts over the years coming into play here. So. Basically, you know, the lighting is going to continue to change. We're going to see this new lighting coming here in Honolulu, and it's going to be great. It's going to have people talking. You know, in at least today, if somebody's in the neighborhood, it's not supposed to be there. You kind of hear the dogs as the person's walking up the street.
Old-fashioned sensors.
Yeah. In the new Honolulu, you'll just look out the window, and if the lights on each light pole are popping on, you'll know Howard was involved and got those things. So they're set up so that they can actually track the person walking down the street, or, you know, light up the path that the person's going to be on. So there's a lot more to come.
Yeah. Well, Howard, I mean, you're doing important work. Don't stop for a minute. But I also want to add that it seems clear to me that there are some people in this world who really love what they're doing, and they're going to continue to do it because of that. Some of them may be at this very table. It's Howard Wigg and my co-host Ray Starling here on Think Tech Talks, talking about Hawaii, the state of clean energy, talking about the big news in lighting, public and transportation spaces. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Aloha.